Yeah. Well, I'm the same age as you, Joel. So we'll be both 30 next year. But it's funny that, yeah, that's a really good perspective too, Jeffin, that you brought. And honestly, Joel, I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty because, you know, things, I think anything can be used, I guess, to try to bring people down a rabbit hole of just what was me. And so that like, you're not alone with those thoughts, but just appreciate you sharing, you know, because there may be someone else that understands. And then Jeffin's perspective is such a good perspective and a fresh perspective too. Because Paul said, like there's a benefit um to singleness, but there's also a benefit to marriage as well. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate both of your input regarding that because I think one thing that has helped me like cope through the idea, like to where I'm not wallowing in self-pity every night when it comes to singleness is like traveling. That's like a big like passion that I love doing. Like eventually I want to go to all 50 states and I'm 14 states away from that goal. So I'm very close and I think like that's one big blessing that comes out of being single is that like financially wise, like I'm able to just, like go on trips by myself or with a friend and like and get into, do different activities. But and then like once I get married, I know that would be a little bit more of a challenge. Like I don't think I would stop traveling, but like it would be a little bit more of a obstacle only because I'm paying for two instead of one. So then you start having to you got to start thinking like preparing even further back than what I do even now and just being a single guy that still lives with my parents, so just even that like trying to think of those steps too is very important. So and then even like Brittany said, there is definitely good that does come out, like Paul was saying, to us in the word that like there is definitely good things that come out of being single. And then there's definitely benefits to being married as well. So just either way, either outcomes, whether I'm still married, I mean no, whether I'm still single or married, um it's definitely just important to to just stay positive and just know that this is the time that God has me at, and just have to keep going, and don't even like dwell in the traps that the enemy has set for me, because I know that he is going to have those traps, that where I may be laying and late at night in bed, and then that's where he wants to come to attack when you're in your like I guess most emotional moments, or just like the times where you are finally stopping from the busy day that you have. So just there's a lot that goes into it, but just a lot of it's a mind game, with me for sure. So I think like another thing that I started thinking of was like maybe reasons why I haven't found like why I'm not married at the moment. I mean, I know some of it I brought up was like maybe maybe insecurities, but I guess I was thinking more like if I wanted to be married, I feel like not that I'm feeling like cocky or anything or like super confident about myself, but I feel like if I wanted to get married just to say I was married, I could have been married a long time ago, because there are people that have reached out to me that I personally was not like interested in, but I know a lot of people have said stuff like, people like I guess that I talk to, whether it's friends or family, says that I'm picky when it comes to finding the right person. And I don't see anything wrong with being picky, even though I know a lot of people may say, well, you being picky is the reason why you're single, because you haven't found that exact kind of spouse that you're looking for. So out of curiosity, do you think that being picky for your future spouse is a bad thing?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like you got to know what you want in life, right? Number one, I think definitely for me, I definitely took like a couple years, right, to definitely find, like literally my goddess. I can say that, right? Because when it comes to your spouse, guy or girl, it's definitely important to kind of have the similar interests and have the same values in life, right? I mean, number one, right? It always come down to faith. Number one thing, faith. I mean, because for us, I plan to have a big family. I mean, I'm thinking like a big family, like 8 kids, right? And because I come from only two, so and she come from same, right? But we kind of have like similar interests in life, right? And we kind of found each other in paradise, you can say. And we kind of like even now, right? We're like, we're like both like young, I mean, late 20s coming up, right? We're 27 right now. So we're also a young couple who just got married. And at the same time, we're also thinking ahead. We're like, before when we were dating, are we talking about the same thing while we're dating and after marriage, after this 1 year? I think this podcast came at the right time because I just celebrated my first year, and now the podcast go, hey, look at that, that's God's work. This is like an interview, right? How's your married life? But it's great, right? But so that's the bottom line is before marriage, before the holy matrimony, and like celebrating that, right? The talk, you guys know the talking phase, right? That phase. Or is it where, oh, you're married now, right? You're dating 6 months now. You went to Cancun now. You celebrate your 6 months. Is it that? Is it all for Instagram? Or is it down like the foundation of the trueness, celebrating like 25 years of marriage one day, right? And building that stage is so important. So that's why take your time, right? And finding that, and that's just me, guys. I'm just being open, right? And just letting you guys know what I did. And I think because of that, it's more happiness, right? You're opening the world of that. And you want to serve God too, and being able to have a good household. Being married and a man of the house, it's like, man, I didn't think there's a lot of responsibilities, but you have your God with you and you have your wife with you, you can take over the world. That's how confident that you can feel. So definitely nothing wrong with that, being picky. Take your time. Definitely find somebody who matches your energy, right? You guys can probably tell I'm very energetic, right? I'm a military guy, right? So it's like rough and tough, but then the sweet side as well. And she definitely knows that very well, right? But taking your time, no problem at all, right? Just my 2 cents.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's definitely good to bring up is just taking your time on finding the right person because it only takes one person to make it happen. So, and there's so many people out there in the world, and just you definitely just got to just wait on God's calling, and like you said, just make sure that you have that you have first the same goals, like as far as like what you want out of a marriage. You want to have Jesus at the center, and whether you want to have children or not. So like there's a lot of those things that go into the equation. So yeah, just you definitely just takes one
Yeah.
person to make it right.
Yeah. The values factor is so important,
So
and
important.
it's being selective. It's being intentional. We don't just fall into marriage. We don't just fall into relationships. And if that's something I used to just date because they were cute, and I didn't really filter out or really vet them or get to know them as a person before just thankfully they weren't terrible people, but I'm saying like um you want to know what you're getting into before you just get into it, and that's wisdom. And so there's nothing wrong with taking your time and getting to know that person and seeing, yes, do you have the same values, faith, the same interests. You don't even have to have the same hobbies and everything like that, but just interests. What is their character like? It's not, if you were going to the grocery store, you don't buy every single fruit that you see. You are selective. You choose which fruit you want. And so there's no shame with that. And actually my dad just asked me that day. He was like, are you being too picky or like what's going on? But you know, I think also culturally we're just in a different age, and so dating looks a lot different than it did maybe even 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And so we have to take that into the consideration as well. But yeah, being intentional, because like the same thing, Joel, like if I really wanted to, I could be married. But would it be healthy for me? Would it be right for me? And I've just learned that it's important to really understand that person and dig deeper than just surface level, to really choose to date. So being selective is, there's nothing wrong with it. And if you happen to fall into a relationship, no shame, but look around and see, like, is this person even going where I want to go? Like, are we even going in the same direction? Just because they're a great person, even if they have the same faith, like, are we even walking in the same direction? Do we have the same goals in life, the same calling, purpose, for what we believe that God is calling us to do? Or, where you see yourself, even if you're not a Christian, even a follower, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Does your vision even align? Because if they want to live in Timbuktu and you want to stay in the US, I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to, you want to be in alignment when it comes to goals and visions. And not everything is going to be the exact same, because you don't have to be the same person. You don't have to marry a clone, but that does help. It really does, because you're thinking about things long term. Like Jeffin was saying, he's thinking like not just to tomorrow or next year. He's thinking 10, 25 years down the line and trying to build for the future, not just for tomorrow, not just for a short period of time. And I think right now it's more common where people are kind of just living in the moment, and that is so beautiful and it's great to live in the moment. But, damage can come from that if we're not careful with the dating that we engage in. Like, the relationship, even especially if you already know, like, oh, this guy is not good for me, but I really like him, I'm gonna do it anyway. You already know, like, it's just, sometimes beforehand that this is just not gonna work out. And going against your gut and going against that wisdom in itself can be detrimental. And also it can be detrimental to that person. Like, we have to think about our decisions do affect other people. So just jumping into a relationship, it may be fun for us, but that could be someone really wanting to commit to you and very serious, and then we're just kind of going with the flow. So there's nothing wrong with being picky or selective or choosy. And yeah, people used to say that to me too, but no, I'm intentional. I don't want just anybody. And I could understand if we had the same goals, but a lot of times, especially when I was growing up, we didn't even have the same values. So I didn't want to date anyone. I already knew that was going to be an argument. So why bother, So
Yeah, yeah, that's actually really good that you brought up the idea of not only could it hurt you, like, just jumping into a relationship with somebody that may not have the same values, but like it could hurt that person as well, because they may have had they may be like really committed to wanting to be with you, and then here you are, you were just in it just because you wanted a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And so I guess as far as having that goal, in mind, where some people do just want to be with somebody for no reason, basically, just to say that they're not single. And and sometimes that's where it's good to like know from the beginning, like from the get-go, like, what are you looking for? Like, are you wanting to get married one day? Not to like, I know that's not a question to really ask, like, get married to me on the first date, but like, I'm talking about more just the idea of marriage. Like, are you looking to get married one day? Or are you just you that type that just wants to be single forever and just date around? And so there's because there's people out there like that just feel like they just want to date anybody and everybody. But there are some people out here that are still just wanting to get with someone with the intentions of marriage eventually. And
yeah.
so
And that's
that's
not an excuse to judge someone. We can be open. I do want to preface that, because, it's okay to be open. Like, say if there's someone that you wouldn't normally date, but you do have the same values, but you're like, I would normally wouldn't be interested in that person. Like, you can still be open to, because something good could come from that as well. So, not saying we're not saying like we're just saying being intentional. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to
Yeah, you can be
say.
open to different cultures. We have good food, guys.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Yes.
No, I mean, so I was gonna add something. I think it's really important, right? So I think it's all comes down to like your standard. Like, what is your standard of Are you going to be the person who's going to date around, or find somebody to kind of like grow together, right? I think especially with my spouse, like, you guys know the saying, like, you focus on the strength, but you build on the weakness, right? And that's pretty famous because it's like we're not perfect, right? We're none of us are perfect, right? And especially when it comes to the single time in your life, you could be that person who could be jumping ship to ship, or take those time of months to heal, right? And go to the restaurant, right? Go to the gym, go. I think I was more closer to God when I was alone, right? Meaning like building on myself, building my faith, right? Reading Bible every single day, right? That habit that came like very quick, because I was like, you know what? Like, you guys know the saying where there's somebody inside you telling you what to do all the time. So if your standards are very low, you're always gonna do the same, like the standard that like very low standard. But if you build on yourself, right? If you focus on your mental health, like especially when it comes to our faith, if you have the very high faith and you build on your physical like looks and everything like that, and just be like, I think like happy, right? Like when you genuinely feel happy, you attract happiness out there, right? I don't know if you guys read a lot of like other books, but a lot of famous people in the world, they were talking about like when you build on yourself, everything attracts to you. The law of attraction. I don't know if you guys know about that, but especially when it comes to our faith and our like, I can even be open with you guys. I was in the like a married candidate and things like that. I built on myself, right? Took some time to develop who I am today, and that's all of us, right? The day we were born till now, where who we are today is a representation what we thought about ourselves 5 years ago, right? Now, as we going into 2023, what is the next 5 years going to look like? And you know what? Like now for me, it's like family, right? Being more involved in our church and things like that. But when I was single, now I was like, you know what? I want to find like a spouse that are do this. And I had a long list, right? That means like I had a high standard, right? Like, I want to make sure that, we only will live one life. At the same time, am I gonna like just be like, you know what? Like, how the devil will try to attack you, right? They'll show you the girl in the red dress, but unfortunately it's not. And it's a cycle. And then I was like, you know what? Let me change my standard. Let me raise my bar a little by little. The world completely changed, the perspective completely changed. And I mean, today, life is peaceful. I'm at the beach every day. No, I'm just kidding. But you guys get the point.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
good. And even what you said about like being open, adding on to that, and you said something that you said is that you acknowledge the strengths, but you also build on the weaknesses. Tell me, can you tell me more about that? That was such a good statement
So
too, especially about being open.
Right. So I think in that terms, right, it definitely comes down to what you want in life. Because number one thing, we live in a country where it's a land of opportunity. I mean, you can with your fingertip, you can like whatever country food that you like, right? You can have it. So think about that. Where when it comes to your family, what do you want, right? Like you talk about your friend. We're not going to mention names because it's the recording, right? Like your friend married somebody outside her culture. Am I correct? We were just
Yes.
talking about that right before. And I think in not just her, like people are more open now because we live in 2022 and people are like more open to different cultures, and many different cultures carry these traditional family values of higher standard, right? Like you guys probably know in our culture, like you're supposed to be single until you have an arranged marriage lined up, right? That's the Indian culture, right? But now all that changed because in technology and the kids are smarter than their parents now. But anyway, we'll talk about that on another podcast. But bottom line is when you're living in a world where it's everything is like gratitude is like that, like you can receive anything, like our self-value goes down because everything you don't need to work for anything, it's right there, right? Especially when it comes to like being single and being married, we got to fight through a lot of demons to become the best version of who you are. Because one day, right? One day in heaven, God's going to ask you, what did you do for me? This what you could have done, right? This is literally what he's going to show you a mirror and ask you, Brittany, this is what you could have been. This is the best version of you. Then I don't want to feel bad for myself because I didn't put in the work for myself to become the household man that God wanted me to be, right? And I'm going way deep, right? This is one minor question. Hopefully, I didn't lose you guys, right? But bottom line is, Brittany, like I think being able to, like, all the strength that you have, right, that you hold, right, and and of course prayer and meditation and spending that time like, hey God, this is what I want. I think this is something that I want in my spouse, right? And that spouse could have a lot of weakness too. Same thing with both everybody. I'm not saying anything, right? You get the idea. And at the same thing, that individual that comes into our life, maybe they're looking for someone just like us, right? And I'm not saying every married couple is perfect. Oh, heck no, right? We're not, right? But when we build together, when we're together, hey, the time is going to go by. We're going to be 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's still okay to find love at 60, by the way. Let's be clear, right? But hey, it's better if you find it when you're 30. Am I right? I think so, right? But when you do that, you're basically looking at a spouse and say, hey, look, you're amazing, you're great. Let's build something together. Like me and my wife, or my wife and I, we have this thing where, like, certain areas in our life, like she's good at it, I might not be good at it, right? And vice versa. And we would find a way to make it work, because right now it's just me and her, right? But a couple years down the road, we're gonna have 1 kid, 2 kid, and the family's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger, where we need a system in our household that we're both okay with strength and weakness, because we can have both. Like, we gotta work on both and build together. And I think being able to have that in a spouse, game changer, right? I don't know if you caught the point, Brittany, but hopefully I hit your question. I wanted to cover, I was trying to come up with it. I'm talking with my hands and drawing examples, but hopefully you guys understand. I'm excited, that's why.
Yeah, I like that. Like I